kid chose that action because they put them in that
Well,
situation.
I believe the parent is the reason for putting that kid in a
Yeah.
desperate situation. Because although that desperate situation led them to go and steal, they could have done something else too.
Yeah, they could have asked.
So what about the mom who just got convicted for her son's shooting the teacher?
Whoa.
Oh wait, that was definitely her fault.
So did she give him the gun?
She left it in where he could get it. He was 6.
So, but did she get
talking about
indicted for shooting?
Or it was like child neglect.
Well, yeah, that's what she was responsible for.
It was something else, but she ended up getting like a year and a half, something like that.
Well, I do think that she needs to be held responsible for what she did, which was, I don't know if that's considered child neglect, neglecting a child, endangering a child, or contributing to a child's delinquency. I'm not sure what they would call that, but I don't think she should be held responsible, or can be, I guess, held responsible for his actions. But
He's 6.
Yeah.
She's responsible.
What about the school shooter?
He is 16.
So what do you all think? What do you think?
I think that
is there a certain age, or like?
I don't think that it's a certain age. I think that it's just like going through the different stages of grief. I think it's just a part of life, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that to a large extent, adults are responsible for the behavior of their children to a certain extent, not fully, because trust me, I know, because these kids, but there are some things like the environment we have our children in, the things that we teach them or don't teach them, and all the other stuff, it contributes to what their behaviors are going to be. So I think that it is. But as far as
that you stop saying,
I don't think it's an age. I just think it's when you are going through that process of self-awareness and you just really learn, like, because I feel like you have to do it almost. I feel like it's just like grief, like what's the first stage of grief? Like
Admitting.
What is it? Is it at midnight? I don't think it's at midnight.
It's denial.
Yeah, like y'all know what I mean. Like you got to go through these stages. So I feel like in life, when you start to kind of reconcile who you are and the choices you made in life, or what you're doing, or where you want your life to be, whatever it is, right? Whenever you get to that place, you go like through a process, and it's one step where you blaming your parents. You like, if they would have never did this, then I wouldn't have never done it. But I feel like once it's time for you to like grow, to then you have to let that go, right? You have to then start to self-reflect and say, hey, this may have been my environment, but I could have made a different choice. Or this may have been my environment, and maybe that was the only choice at that moment, but now I can make different choices, right? Because so I can't keep putting it, I'm this way now after I'm having this understanding, right? Because my parents did XYZ when I was like, you can't keep doing it. You know what I mean? So I don't necessarily know if it's the age. I just think it's like a process. And when you start to go through that self-reflection and you kind of just trying to grow in your life, I feel like that's something you have to grow past. Like I feel like it's normal and it's natural. I feel like everybody do it. I feel like everybody go through that phase where, but I feel like it's fair. Because it is things to blame on our parents, right? It's things that's to blame for our parents, but I feel like it's something you just gotta reconcile and then grow past.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I think the same thing. I mean,
Yeah,
I grew. Yeah, I grew up in a neglectful situation. So my parents did not raise me. My parents had addiction issues. So if you would have looked at me at 11 and said, you know what, you need to take responsibility for your actions, I probably would have, tried to throw my pistol at you or something, because it's just like, you don't even know what's going on in my family. So how can you try to force accountability onto me? But I had to grow, and, life changes. I talked about that earlier today. Like when you going through a major life change and you have all these emotions going on, it's hard for you to like pinpoint like what age. It's like experience, kind of like what Cannon is saying. Like when you grow into self-awareness and you start growing into learning about who you are, you start healing some parts. And I know for my personal journey, I had to I think I was maybe like my first and second year in college. I had to stop blaming my parents for like everything. Like had y'all been around, my life would have been different. And I had to, a professor of mine was like, I sympathize with you and I have empathy for your situation, but how many more times you gonna use that statement? Because you're not the only person whose parents didn't show up for them. Like, and that triggered me to want to work on self-awareness. So I think it's just I don't think there's an age. I think that there is a moment in life where you're aware and you grow into knowing who you are.
Do you all think that the world sets a certain age at which you can no longer blame your parents, or like, so not just yourself, but like society and people as a whole? Do we kind of have an age by which we say it might not?
I don't think it's
say it's not your parents' fault. When do we
I think it's how old you are. Because if we look at the justice system, we see, you know, our kids going away way younger, you know, than some of our counterparts. And it's just, hey, I can look at you and see a man versus I can look at you and see a teen that's making a mistake. You know what I'm saying? We can look at each other and say that. But yeah, it's
also my bad. Sorry. Also, I think it depends on the dynamic that the parent and the child have, regardless of how old that child is. Only because y'all know Gypsy Rose just got out. And she was a child or an adult or whatever the hell was going on with that. But she was manipulated by her mom for so long and to such a degree.
Yeah.
I don't blame her. I definitely blame her.
I would have had some mercy on her. I don't think I would have sent her to jail.
Yeah. But you know, blaming her mother because her mother was the villain in her story in every which way. But I don't think it's an age, like you guys said. It's more so a mindset because she was getting traumatized well past 18. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, but her trauma and abuse started so young, you know, and her whole mind was changed or impacted because of all this abuse. So even though she was 18, you know, it's like she's been abused her whole life. So she was just in like a really vulnerable state. And then she was in a vulnerable state emotionally and mentally, but also just like physically. Like she had nobody. Her mom really made her think that she was incapable and that nobody else, that she didn't have anybody. So, you know, but so I do think that the murder that she planned, that murder over the course of an extended period of time, she planned it. I do think she is accountable for that. But of course, we can understand why, right? It's like the person who is like, you know what I mean? We can definitely understand why. So I would blame her mom for what she did, which was abuse her daughter. Yeah. But if I was the judge, I would have given her like some probation or something. I could not have sent that girl to jail. I just couldn't.
And for such a long time, she wasn't in jail for no years. She was in jail for a minute.
Yeah.
She was in jail for a while.
To me, that's like adding trauma. You know?
Yeah,
it is. It is. I work juvenile lockup, juvenile detention facilities, especially in the South, is a trauma cluster. You know what? It needs to be reformed immediately. Go vote in your local elections.
Thank you so much.
Please.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Judges, I think judges are more important than governors and all those people.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's the only reason why I don't think society stops blaming parents at a certain age. And I was thinking mostly of the criminal justice system because people be bringing up all the time how they was raised. Once they get up in there, they be 80 years old. They be like, "But my parents used to beat on me," and then they did. And it's taken into account. So I can't say as society either. Just like she was saying that it depends on just people's perception of where they